We're going to talk a little bit about cover cropping. So cover cropping is when we're growing a plant specifically for its nutrient building capacity. So we're building organic matter that we're putting into our soil. So we're not growing a plant for consumption. We're growing a plant to improve the quality of our soil. And there's a number of different plants that we can use for this purpose. In this video, we're going to focus on annual cover crops, so cover crops that live for one season, rather than perennial cover crops which live for multiple seasons, although there are many, many wonderful perennial cover crops. Annual cover crops are often comprised of a legume, so this would include our fava beans, our classic one, lentils, peas, vetch, our cowpeas are all in this family, the legume family. Any plant in the legume family is a nitrogen fixer. So it has a symbiotic relationship with a bacteria on its root system, the rhizobia, and it takes nitrogen from the air and fixes it into a plant available form. When we grow these plants for that specific purpose, we actually want to cut down the plant prior to it fruiting and producing the fruit of the plant, or the bean, and chop it up and incorporate it into our soil. So we're preventing it from completing its life cycle to allow for the maximum amount of nutrients to end up in our soil and not in the bean. Another form of cover cropping is grasses. So there's many different grasses that are utilized for building organic matter. Grasses grow lots of dense organic matter, lots of leafy parts of the grass that can be incorporated into the soil. And so some of the ones that we often see are oats. And what grasses often do is they are great at finding nutrients in the soil that other plants were unable to find. So they can find those nutrients and pull them up into their leafy parts. And then when we incorporate those back into the soil, we're incorporating all that nutrients that was found in lower levels of the soil or different layers of the soil, building up again that nutrient profile that we're hoping to achieve in our diverse, healthy soils. Another form of cover crops that we often use is ones that actually break up the earth. So sometimes in farming systems that use lots of heavy machinery, there's a hard crust of soil that can be created when the tractor is going over and over and over again on that soil surface, and it creates a hard pan. And so when plants try to break up that hard pan, it can be hard for their root system to break it up. There's certain plants that are excellent at this job, and those are often in the radish family. So we see Daikon radishes will be used for this purpose because they can create a really long taproot and actually break up that hard pan, which allows for better drainage and nutrient exchange. Fava beans are the king of nitrogen fixers, and basically what they do is they have a bacteria on their root system that they provide glucose to, and in exchange that bacteria fixes nitrogen. So it takes nitrogen from the air and fixes it into a plant available form, and then we can store that nitrogen in the soil. And the way that we do this is that we'll grow fava beans. We'll actually chop them down when about a third of the plant is covered in flowers. And so we're about that at this point. We're ready to chop down our fava bean cover crop in our orchard. And what we can actually see is we'll pull up one of these fava bean plants. So here you can see the nodules on the root system of the fava bean, and inside the nodules is the rhizobium, the bacteria that's fixing nitrogen. We can actually see how active these this bacteria is by cutting it open and observing the color inside. So if it's bright red, we'll know that that bacteria is quite active. So we can see kind of brown, so we actually might not have quite as much bacteria in this soil. So the bacteria, the rhizobia, has to be present in the soil for the nitrogen fixing to occur. What we can do is we can inoculate seeds with that bacteria to increase the nitrogen fixing capacity of this plant. So the next step in this process is chopping up our plant material into small pieces. And what this will do is this will keep the nitrogen in the soil and prevent it from going into the bean of the plant. So if we allowed this plant to fully produce its seed, or the bean, the fava bean, it would send all of the nitrogen that's in the root system into the seed of the plant. And that's why beans are so healthy and nutritious for us. But we want to capture that nitrogen and keep it in our soil for us. So what we'll do is we'll chop it up. In the orchard, we'll lay it right on top of the soil because we don't want to disturb the soil. However, in the garden beds, what we would do with a cover crop is chop it up and incorporate it into the soil to maximize our nitrogen retained in that soil.